awake, confusion spreading across his face as he sees Jinwol's hands rummaging through his belongings. The disoriented man wonders what is happening, trying to make sense of the scene before him, and when full awareness returns to him, he realizes Jinwol is still hovering, and irritation rises within him. He demands to know what he was doing, and Jinwol calmly explains that he had assumed Artton was dead and thought his clothes could be reused since there were no proper garments left around. Artton takes a moment to process the words, then looks upward, realizing they are standing on the main stage of the final preliminaries. The environment feels different, quiet yet tense, as though danger still lingers nearby. He then looks back to Jinwol, trying to understand what led to this strange situation. Jinwol casually mentions that the lack of decent clothing in the area forced him to improvise. Artton glances at the empty battlefield, noticing no other bodies lying nearby, and muttering that now it all makes sense. The earlier chaos must have caused everyone to scatter or turn against one another, which means that every survivor remaining here is an enemy. He adds in a tired tone that it is not surprising at all, given how brutal this tournament has become. A brief silence passes before Artton wonders about their missing allies, saying there is no way Jinwol could have killed them. Jinwol replies that he does not know what happened to them either. When he regained consciousness, he found only the two of them remaining in this section. Artton nods slowly, piecing together the situation. He concludes that even though they entered through the same portal, the energy must have scattered them randomly across different zones. He admits that perhaps it is a blessing in disguise, at least for now, since it keeps them away from that monstrous being they faced earlier. Jinwol looks down at Artton's condition and observes the deep injuries covering his body. He remarks that at this stage, Artton is too weak to fight properly and might only become a burden if things get worse. Artton's expression grows bitter as he realizes how much strength he has lost. He admits that letting his guard down in front of an enemy was a mistake and that he cannot fight someone like Jinwol in this state. A small thought crosses his mind, wondering if this might be the end for him. But before the feeling of defeat can sink deeper, Jinwol places a steady hand near his wounds, telling him to stay still. The next moment, Jinwol's energy begins to flow. Golden light forms along, and a warm pulse spreads across Artton's body. He concentrates deeply, admitting that it is not easy to use a healing ability he has not mastered. The power hums with unstable rhythm, but it works. Artton feels his pain slowly ease, the burns and cuts closing before his eyes. The sensation shocks him. It takes him a few moments to understand that Jinwol, despite their rivalry, is healing him rather than finishing him off. Far away from the battleground, Ren watches with shining eyes. Her heart leaps with excitement. She realizes that Jinwol is using her power, and joy overwhelms her until she begins screaming in disbelief and happiness. Nearby, Lena observes the same footage with concern, struggling to understand what she is seeing. She knows that Jinwol was restricted from contacting Ren due to his limiter. That means the ability he just used is not simple Cosmo Force. It must be something entirely different, a deeper power hidden within him that allows absorption and replication beyond the known laws of energy. Back at the battlefield, Jinwol finishes the healing and helps Artton back on his feet. He then advises that they should move quickly before he loses any more of the stronger fighters. Artton hesitates, asking why Jinwol would bother helping an enemy, especially since the final stage of the tournament is supposed to be every man for himself. Jinwol answers with a calm and knowing smile. He tells Artton indirectly that leaving behind someone with exceptional detection ability would be a waste. He adds that Artton should hurry and locate the strongest fighters nearby so they can prepare. Jinwol then pauses for a brief moment, noticing something unusual about the eyes of Artton. They appear confused and glowing with faint light. He mutters that he has seen this before, but before he could deduce something, Bersian, the representative of the Serpenian nation, dives down from the sky with a ferocious expression. The impact of his landing shakes the ground as he charges straight toward Jinwol. The human instantly bends low, rolling beneath the attack. Bersian straightens and mocks his opponent, saying that Jinwol has lost his only proper weapon and is now defenseless. But Jinwol moves in swiftly, channeling energy into his fist before releasing the whirlwind heavenly fist. The strike connects directly with Bersian, sending a loud crack through the air. Jinwol remarks that he does not need a weapon to win. Bersian steadies himself and replies that arrogance only weakens a man, claiming that without that weapon, Jinwol cannot even scratch him. In response, Jinwol's skin begins to harden and turn crimson. Energy flows along his arms as his muscles thicken with defensive power. He counters with a faint smirk, suggesting that Bersian might be describing himself instead. He moves faster than sight, slashing across Bersian's side in a single motion. A sharp line follows, and Bersian's arm falls to the ground cleanly severed. Bersian grits his teeth and summons a swarm of basilisks from his energy field. The creatures hiss and coil around him, ready to strike. He uses one of it to merge into his body and regenerate the lost arm. Just as the limb reforms, Bersian studies his opponent carefully. He notices that Jinwol's entire body is now covered with a layer of blue energy shaped like blades. Recognition flashes in his mind. That energy belongs to the Mantrak species Cosmo Force. He mutters that Jinwol has far too many tricks for a single being and begins to suspect the truth that Jinwol possesses an ability to replicate other species' techniques perfectly. Without wasting any more time, Jinwol lifts one foot and slams it down, releasing the Earth-load sky explosion attack. The ground bursts open violently, scattering dust and stone in every direction. The sudden explosion blinds Bersian's sight, filling the battlefield with thick smoke. He quickly realizes that the smoke itself is harmless and assumes that Jinwol is trying to attack his blind spots. However, Bersian feels no fear, as his body contains countless eyes embedded across his skin, allowing him to see from every direction without weakness. A faint sound from above alerts him. A projectile slices through the haze. He tilts his head slightly, avoiding it just in time, but the flying object cuts cleanly through the head of one of his basilisks and grazes his own cheek. Bersian blinks in surprise, not expecting any damage. He peers through the smoke and sees that the object was nothing more than a small rock. He dismisses it as a meaningless trick until he notices Jinwol lifting another stone in his hand. This time, a purple glow surrounds it, humming with power. Bersian's confidence falters when he recognizes the aura. Before he can react, Jinwol moves faster than thought, swinging his arm forward. The glowing rock slices through the air like a blade, and in an instant, Bersian's head is severed from his body. The impact sends a burst of energy outward, cutting through the air like thunder. Bersian somehow is still untouched and identifies the attack as the Cosmo Force of the Decabraz species. Jinwol states calmly that he no longer needs physical weapons since he can shape any inorganic material into a weapon of his own. But just then a strange realization crosses Jinwol's mind when he notices Bersian still harmless and speaking. The energy feels distorted. He quickly understands that something is wrong. It was not Bersian's real body, it was an illusion. Bersian observes with satisfaction. He assumes that the illusion has taken full control and that Jinwol has already been defeated. But in the next instant, he notices another Jinwol splitting from Jinwol's original body and running away. The sudden movement leaves Bersian stunned. The hypnosis should have been absolute. But then the truth hits him and he realizes what it is. It must be the work of the Nomad species, the same person who was with Jinwol earlier. Enraged, Bersian leaps high into the air, closing the distance with this new Jinwol in a single bound. He descends with a powerful kick aimed at the escaping Jinwol. The impact shatters the edge of the cliff beneath them, sending stones tumbling downward. The blast throws Jinwol from his footing, hurling him deep below as the rocky ground collapses into the darkness beneath. Before we continue, if you like our recaps, please subscribe and leave a comment. We desperately need your support to continue posting recaps. Back to the story, Jinwol recovers and keeps running across the broken battlefield, his movements frantic and uncoordinated. He is breathing heavily while the massive basilisk behind him crashes forward in relentless pursuit. The scene looks almost ridiculous from the outside. He is not fighting or countering, only running, his every step filled with panic. The audience watching from the interplanetary screens falls into confusion. The tournament broadcaster speaks in disbelief, unable to understand why this once fearsome fighter now appears to be fleeing helplessly. Viewers all around the planet begin to murmur in confusion. Even Mark cannot make sense of this sudden change. He remarks that the man's behavior is nothing like before. Lena, beside him, studies the screen closely and shakes her head. She quietly explains that the one running is not Jinwol. Mark turns toward her, puzzled by her words, trying to understand what she means. Lena continues to observe the display and clarifies that the being inside Jinwol's body belongs to the Nomad species. She elaborates that the Nomads are a civilization known for transforming their bodies into spiritual forms that can possess others. Once they take control, they can manipulate their host freely, turning them into living weapons. Their methods are infamous even among the darkest parts of the universe. Mark struggles to comprehend the explanation, still unsure how such possession works. Ren, who has been watching in silence until now, speaks up with confusion, wondering why the Nomadis would use such a powerful body only to run away instead of fighting. Lena answers that their brutality lies in how they handle their hosts. The Nomadis often damage or destroy the bodies they possess in order to kill their enemies along with themselves. It is a cruel and reckless strategy that has made them feared across the underworld. Despite this, Lena notes that something feels wrong. The Nomadis are known for being extremely individualistic, each acting only for personal gain. Using this possession method to help someone like Jinwol is completely uncharacteristic. She senses that this is not a simple possession but something deeper, possibly a decision made under unusual circumstances. Back in the battlefield, the mud Jinwol running across the broken terrain is not the real one but Artton, who has possessed his body, and because Jinwol's body is able to regenerate even from a single cell, he was able to split from the leftover that is in Bersian's possession, taking original Jinwol with him. Now, the pain overwhelms him as he realizes that his internal organs feel twisted and crushed from the earlier impact. He curses his impulsive decision, admitting that taking such a risk was unlike him. He recalls how Jinwol helped him earlier despite their rivalry, a gesture that left a deep impression on him. Artton remembers thinking that even though the final round was supposed to be fought alone, but Jinwol still saved him without hesitation. In response, Jinwol placed his hand on Artton's head and strongly asked what kind of idiot would leave a wounded comrade lying there. Artton responded by questioning if they were really comrades, suggesting they would have to fight each other eventually. Jinwol told him to think about that later and to just focus on healing for now. Now, Artton reflects on that moment. He remembers it was the first time someone had reached out to him with such warmth. This memory makes him determined to save Jinwol, vowing that he absolutely will not give up. So, he keeps running with all he has got, and surprisingly he continues to heal, and realizes how incredible Jinwol's regeneration power is. He believes that with this power, they can escape together. But before he can do anything more, Bersian slams his body into the earth. Artton's face is crushed against the dirt, and his vision becomes blurry. A burning pain spreads across half his face, and he realizes it is impossible to escape from this monster. Bersian seems amused by the spectacle. He finds it fascinating that Jinwol's body keeps regenerating even while being controlled by someone else. He decides to take his time, promising to kill him over and over until his mind completely shatters. Artton mutters, so the decision to take over this body was a mistake that caused more suffering. But then he starts laughing and defiantly asks Bersian if he thought he would ever say such a thing. In the next instant, the Nomad's essence inside Jinwol flickers, and in a moment of resolve, Artton leaves this body, and instantly he enters the body of Bersian, aiming to possess him the same way he did with Jinwol. Artton thinks that it is all over now. But the moment he opens his eyes inside Bersian, a horrifying sight surrounds him. He finds himself completely trapped within a twisting mass of living serpents. Countless basilisks coil tightly around his body, binding him from every direction. Confusion grips him as he tries to make sense of this strange space. Bersian's voice echoes inside the mental void, welcoming him to the interior of his being. He explains that his kind stores hundreds of basilisks within their bodies, and in his case, there are thousands. Each one resonates with his life force and exists as a living part of him. This means that his body is not something he controls alone, it is a living colony of countless serpents moving as one. Artton realizes the danger immediately. If he loses here, his spirit will be erased completely, leaving no trace of his existence. But just at that very moment, Bersian begins to tremble and spit blood. Artton hesitates, wondering why his host suddenly appears to be suffering. It turns out back in the real world, Jinwol has regained control of his body. He mutters that without his restraining necklace, it becomes difficult to tell when he is caught inside illusions. He steadies himself, shaking off the dizziness. Taking advantage of the situation, Artton's spirit also emerges from Bersian's body and drifts toward him. Jinwol looks at Artton with a mix of relief and frustration, noting that he just healed him, yet he already looks half ruined again. Artton hovers weakly in the air, complaining that Jinwol has no idea what he had to go through. Jinwol responds with calm assurance, telling him that he handled things well, and that he should rest now while he finishes the fight. Artton blushes faintly, embarrassed by the unexpected praise, and insists that Jinwol be careful of the hypnosis technique Bersian uses. But it is already too late. The faint glimmer in Jinwol's eyes shows that he has already fallen under illusion again. Artton realizes the danger instantly, and flies toward Jinwol, knowing exactly how Bersian's power works. All he needs to do is strike Jinwol's head to break the trance, knowing that Jinwol can regenerate that again. The spirit condenses into energy and swings down with precision. The impact connects, piercing a hole through the head of Jinwol and shocking him back to consciousness. Jinwol snaps awake, fury burning in his eyes. He activates the Mantrax species hardening ability, coating his body with red blades of energy. Then within a nanosecond, he tears through the Bersian, and his basilisks with their bodies shattering apart. Injured badly, Bersian hides himself nearby. Jinwol demands his detector, Artton, to locate Bersian's position. Artton hesitates for a second, still recovering, but then complies. The two coordinate their senses, and Jinwol finally detects Bersian high above, hiding on a floating island. He appears to be recovering, his aura still unstable. Jinwol wastes no time. He rushes upward and attacks with a burst of speed, forcing Bersian to defend himself. The first strike nearly breaks his gird, and the second unleashes a series of blue blades that carve through the air like lightning. For a brief moment, Bersian's hypnosis once again clouds Jinwol's vision, but Artton interferes from below. disrupting the energy field. The break in focus allows Jinwol to move freely again. He slashes with precision, finally cutting through tens of Bersian's basilisks. Jinwol then looks back at Artton and acknowledges that it's not bad at all, and with this method, that damn hypnosis won't interfere. Artton smiles faintly, pretending that it was nothing special, though pride clearly shows on his face. Jinwol then straightens himself and looks at the badly injured Bersian. He curses him first and then tells him to let's have a proper fight now. Meanwhile, far away among the viewers, Grog stands frozen before one of the massive tournament screens. Sweat drips from his forehead as the live broadcast shows Lady Ackerman and Panon lying defeated of the monstrous Astrion. A flashback from 1 hour ago shows Panon slowly regaining consciousness while his vision remains blurry. He feels the heavy air and wonders about the place. Then he realizes they must be inside the hidden arena. He sits up and notices Lady Ackerman is already awake. She stands alert beside him, and her calm presence feels very different from the chaos around them. She raises her hand slightly to signal for him to stay quiet. Panon then follows her gaze and spots a terrifying monster moving through the shadows ahead. Panon recognizes the creature instantly and mutters that it is the same creature which entered the arena with them. And it is still alive and kicking some hips. That monster is none other than Astrion, the warrior that was corrupted. Panon wonders aloud if there is any chance that the creature might regain his sanity, but the sight before him offers no hope. Astrion is still radiating violent, unstable energy that flickers across his form like dark lightning. Lady Ackerman decides quickly that they must not fight and should use the opportunity to escape. Before they can move, a voice echoes from the distance. The same arrogant sniper from earlier appears, shouting furiously at them. The man accuses them of insulting the most radiant being in the universe and threatens to punish them. He seems like a fanboy of Astrion. Lady Ackerman tries to reason with him, telling him to stay calm and leave the discussion for later, but he refuses to listen. He declares that it is too late for regrets. He claims that he once fell for a cowardly ambush, but this time he will not make the same mistake. He promises to finish all 3 of them, right there. Panon looks at him in confusion when the man says 3. Unsure what he means, but the answer comes immediately. Astrion, who had been standing still for a moment, suddenly charges forward at them at incredible speed, but strangely he flies past Lady Ackerman and Panon in a blur of energy and grabs the sniper with the throat before he can react. The sound of the impact shakes the entire wall as Astrion slams him violently against the stone. The sniper coughs blood but tries to retaliate, insisting that such attacks will not work anymore. He roars in defiance and drives his fist into the chest of Astrion, sending the monster tumbling backward through the air. The impact releases a wave of blinding light that tears across the chamber. The sniper straightens himself and proudly declares his identity. He reveals that he belongs to the Rusalian Saint civilization, rank 572 in the cosmic hierarchy, and his name is Ormian. That instant, his body shines with radiant energy, his aura blazing like a miniature sun. Astrion rushes straight into him again, showing no hesitation, no fear, not even an attempt to defend. Ormian channels his full strength and throws another punch, releasing a tremendous shockwave that rips through the cavern. Lady Ackerman watches the battle with sharp focus and mutters that she did not expect anyone from the Rusalian Saint civilization to achieve such control over their cosmo force. Panon, trying to keep up, asks her what she means. She explains that Ormian has entered a rare state known as overdrive. It is a condition where one's cosmo force evolves beyond its normal limits, becoming something entirely new. Only those who have achieved perfect mastery of their energy can reach that state. She adds that very few civilizations can achieve such control at stage 3, making this transformation of Ormian even more impressive. Panon asks if this means Ormian has a chance to defeat the monster, but Lady Ackerman shakes her head slightly. She says that it is impossible, as the evolution of Astrion has already surpassed everything they can comprehend, and his existence is no longer bound by the same laws of power or reason. There is no way for them to win this fight, but even so, there might still be a way for them to escape. When Panon asks what she means, she removes one of her gloves and places her bare hand gently against his face. A faint shimmer of light spreads across his skin. Before he can question her action, she turns toward the approaching monster and steps beside him. Moments later, Astrion approaches them and stops directly in front of them for a brief moment. He looks at Panon and Lady Ackerman very closely. Both of them are now on the ground with strange mushrooms growing on their bodies, and they appear to be rotten. Astrion tilts his head slightly as if thinking, and then he turns away from them. He acts as though they have completely vanished from his awareness. Lady Ackerman confirms her suspicion that the monster only attacks beings with strong energy signatures. By using her spores to lower their energy presence, they have made themselves invisible to him. Panon looks down at his hands, noticing the faint fungal growth spreading over his arms. He asks if they will return to normal, and Lady Ackerman assures him that the effect will fade within an hour. The spores temporarily absorb energy and then release it back afterward, leaving no lasting harm. She tells him to think of it as an enforced period of rest. Still, she cannot help but worry about the others scattered throughout the arena, and her thoughts drift toward Jinwol, hoping he is still alive. Back to the battle between Jinwol and Bersian. Their clash continues with great ferocity, and neither of them shows any sign of stopping. Bersian moves like a beast, his speed far beyond what a human should match. He spins and kicks upward, the impact crashing against Jinwol's jaw with explosive force. Jinwol stumbles backward but steadies himself quickly, wiping away the blood. He admits inwardly that Bersian remains incredibly strong, far more than expected. Drawing energy into his hand, Jinwol grabs a fragment of rock and channels his cosmo force through it, shaping it into a glowing blade. He swings the weapon in a wide arc, but before the strike can land, one of Bersian's basilisks locks eyes with him. The moment their gazes meet, his vision distorts as the familiar hypnosis sets in again. The world around him bends and fades. Artton rushes in from behind, pierces his head once again to get him out of illusion and shouts to him to focus, but it is too late. Bersian closes in and drives his knee into Jinwol's face, sending him crashing into the nearby wall. Jinwol rises slowly, shaking his head to clear the haze. He smiles and mutters that the creature is more troublesome than he thought. Artton snaps at Jinwol and asks if this is really the time to be talking so calmly. He warns Jinwol that he is Bersian's #1 target right now, and Bersian has no intention of stopping until one of them dies, and that they must find a way to escape. On the other side, Bersian smirks, declaring that Jinwol is not worth the hunt anymore. He claims that he overestimated the human, assuming he could use multiple powers at once, when in truth he can only channel one at a time. So this, in his mind, means the fight is already over. Jinwol pauses, thinking about the words. A realization forms in his mind. He admits to himself that he has never tried using two cosmo forces simultaneously. The thought ignites a spark of determination within him. He gathers his focus and draws upon both energies, the destructive force of the Decabris species and the defensive force of the Mantrax species. Blue light and red fire spiral together around his arms, merging into one unstable glow. Jinwol calls this attack dual-wielding Shuang's Ho-Hubo. Bersian could not believe it, and his eyes widen in disbelief as he realizes that Jinwol is using the techniques of two different species. In that moment, Jinwol's body begins to radiate immense power. He presses his palms together, merging all two forces at once, and thrusts forward with a devastating strike. The impact unleashes a pulse of raw destruction that completely erases the basilisks in front of him. The air quakes from the explosion, light surging through the chamber like a storm of pure power. Artton analyzes the results of the fusion. The combination of the transfer ability with the destructive force caused an internal chain reaction, annihilating everything in contact. He realizes that this fusion is far beyond anything achieved before. At this point, his overdrive has reached stage 5. No, it is on a level comparable to that of a god. And that is it for today. I hope that you liked today's video, and if you did, hit that like button as today's goal is 1,500 likes. Comment next part down below for the next part. Also, consider subscribing with the notification bell on to get notified as soon as a new video drops onto the channel. You can also join the channel to support me financially and watch videos before public release. I'll meet you in the next video. Until then, thanks for watching.